Hello, I'm Nina Cooke, and thank you so much for joining me today for the Entrepreneur's Inner Game podcast. Today, I'm really excited to have a very special guest with me, Peter Thomson. Now, Peter Thomson has been in business for years, and he's got so much great experience, which he's going to be sharing with us today. He's regarded as the UK's most prolific information product creator. He started his business in 1972, and he built 3 very successful companies, selling the last to a public company after only 5 years of trading for £4.2 million, enabling him to retire at the very young age of 42. Peter now specialises in helping coaches, consultants, speakers, trainers and business owners to share some of their most authentic messages with more people than they could ever reach on a one-to-one basis, by showing them how to write and create and market their own information products. With over 100 audio and 100 video programs written and recorded, he is Nightingale Conant's leading UK author. Peter, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really honoured to have you on the podcast.
I'm absolutely delighted. And after that fantastic introduction, I'd better be good, hadn't I?
I'm sure you'll be amazing. So, Peter, you have so much experience in business. And as you know, this call is all about mindset and the role mindset plays in our success and how it can sabotage us and stop us from going forwards. So I'd love to hear about your journey and the role mindset has played and the demons you battled and how you came through it.
Most definitely. I think to take it back, and this is a learning that I only got probably when I was in my 40s, was I realized that there's a part of me that had been created when I was 2. I mean, most of me was created when I was 0, obviously, but there was a part of my mindset that was created. And not many people know this about me, Nina, but what happened was when on New Year's Eve of the year that I was 2, so that's 1949, a long time ago, because I was just 70. So when I was 2, my sister was sitting in the little room that was the front room in our house. Mom and Dad were somewhere else. And she was warming her hands on a 1-bar electric fire. Now, I don't know if anybody would remember a 1-bar electric fire, but you know the sort of thing I mean, with that bright red glowing thing. And of course, in those days, the rules of health and safety were nothing like they are today. I mean, maybe they've swung too far in some people's opinion, but in those days, it was virtually nothing. And my sister was warming her hands on this electric fire. And as a 2-year-old, I leant forward to do the same thing, and I grabbed the bar. So you can imagine what happened. Absolutely seared my hands, right? Now, we're not close enough for you to be able to see with the camera, but my hands are absolutely in bits inside. And I was taken off to hospital. I was in there for a month or so. When I grew to be 7 years old, my hands didn't grow the skin grafts, so my hands were like this. I had to go back in and be done again. And what happened, this is the insight, was that when I was 7 years old, I was in the ward with the men because there were no children, fortunately, in the burns unit in Birmingham Hospital. And a nurse, towards the end of my stay, which was a month and 3 days, took me off to a different ward where she'd run a bowl of warm water with some Lux Flakes in. And she said to me, Peter, put your hands in there and mess about with the Lux Flakes. It'll really do your hands good. And don't move until I come back. She forgot me. I was there for 7 hours. Now, when you're a 7-year-old and an authority figure tells you not to move, you don't move. So in 7 hours, you've probably got to pee twice, right?
Yes.
And especially when your hands are in water, which is getting colder, right? Now, I know, having done some sort of timeline work on myself with my wife, Sharon, that was a defining moment in my life where from there onwards, I distrusted authority figures. And that's what created my mindset, to answer your question, was that I determined that I had to take control of my life, of my actions and my results. And that I could not rely on someone else, and I certainly couldn't rely on an authority figure to do that. Now, I've fortunately been able to unravel that later in my life with the help of another coach, to take away this immense feeling that I had to have control, because that created problems as well. You know, it's great to be in control, but it can create problems as well. And now, instead of having communication as my number one value and control as my number two value, I now have communication as my number one value and flexibility as my number two value. So that flexibility has changed my mindset and enabled me to experience so much more. Because Nina, here's the crazy part about the journey. I can stand and speak to thousands of people and have done so around the world. These days, I don't. I only speak on my own events because I have many things that I do in my own life to satisfy my goals of changing the world and earning the money I want to earn. So what the change was that having this flexibility meant that I lost a part of what was a real problem for me. And despite the fact I'm a very confident person, I can stand and speak in public, I actually used to get panic attacks. And I used to get panic attacks going into a supermarket or going into a busy place that wasn't something where I was in control. And a friend of mine who knows EFT, you know, emotional freedom technique, right, did that for me, and combined with another coach that uncovered this flexibility gene I'd got after all, which I didn't know I got, suddenly I was a different person. Not only was I still successful in business, which I've been for 45 years, with some bumps along the way, which is one of the mindset questions I'll answer for you, I'm sure, but it also gave me a different way of being more flexible.
So can you tell me a little bit more about this flexibility and your thinking around it and how it changed things for you?
Yes, I'm a great believer. I've got it here. I keep a journal, right? So every morning I write in my journal. I've been writing in here today, right? So every morning I write in my journal and I write what I am grateful for. I write what my focus is for the day, and that can take about 2/3 of a page. And in the bottom third of the page, I then ask myself this question, excuse me, what would I like to be true by the end of today? This is based on an idea by Jim Rohn, who said, never start a day till it's finished on paper, which is a lovely expression, isn't it? So really taking control of your own mind, of your own thoughts, of your own goals, your targets, your aspirations. And so I write down there what I'd like to be true. And part of that is I write down, I was relaxed, calm, and flexible, and carefree. And I write that as 2 words to really emphasize that for myself. I write down various other things I'd like to be true. I was kind and gracious. I made a positive difference in the world. I chose. There's some friends of mine, Richard Wilkins and Liz Ivory, run a course, and it's all about choosing what you want in life. And they say, if you said to somebody, do you want to be wealthy or poor? Everybody would, what would you choose? People would say, I choose wealthy. And if you then said to them, so are you wealthy? Most people would say no. And you'd say, well, why not? If that's what you would choose. And most people say, oh, well, I'm doing the wrong things. But no, there's a very simple answer. They haven't chosen. So I make a conscious effort every single day of choosing what I want my life to be like. So I choose at the start of every day. And then at the end of every day, still in my reflections journal, on my journal, I go back, and you can probably see there, you might be able to see, it says the word reflections. So at the end of the day, I reflect on what happened. And I ask myself, what did I learn? What did I choose? And what was I happy about? And then I sort of let go of the day by, explaining to myself what happened, and then I'm programming my mind for the evening. So I'm looking forward to the evening, to dinner with my wife, Sharon, maybe some of my sons. I've got 4 sons. And then I'm going to have a refreshing and rejuvenating night's sleep, ready for the next day. So I write all this down because I've often found that answering questions that I ask myself are the most powerful and profound questions with the most powerful and profound answers.
That's absolutely wonderful. I love your morning routine and I love your evening routine. And as you say, so in a way, it does give you control, doesn't it? Having a choice. So in a really, ironic way, you get that control on a daily basis.
Yeah, I get it through being flexible.
Yes, so absolutely.
It's a different type of control.
Yes.
So for example, when I started work, I worked for Westminster Bank, which is now NatWest, which then became all sorts of different names over years. So I started work in the bank. And I remember that the bank manager of the major branch I worked with in Colmar in Birmingham wanted me to go on relief to a branch, which I used to do quite regularly. And I didn't want to go to this branch, and neither did anybody else on the relief team. We didn't want to go. And he turned around to me and he said, "It's about time you learned to take orders, young man." Right? Now, to say that to a high DI, which is what I am if you know disc profiling, I'm a high DI. To say that to a high D, you better learn to take orders, you're asking for a smack in the mouth, really, if I was a violent person, which I'm not. And I resigned on the spot. I said, "That's it, I'm leaving. You can't talk to me like that." So that level of control that I wanted for my life was both exhilarating, beneficial, and at times damaging. But each time, hopefully, I've come out the other end learning something about myself and my mindset and how to program my mind for the success, by my definition, that I want to achieve.
Yes, and there's the difference between a very rigid controlling, where you need to be in control. If you're not, you feel completely panicked. And then there's that choosing, do I want to be in control of this situation? Is it okay for me to let go and let someone else, take the lead? And that's a much more joyful place to be and a much more peaceful place to be.
It certainly is. It absolutely is. Now, I'm a meditator as well. So I meditate every morning and I meditate in late afternoon, early evening, always. I started meditating probably 30 years ago. And my wife said to me after about the first 3 months, I was infuriatingly calm. So that's right, because I used to do TM and now I do a variety of different things with a bit of TM thrown in. I'm just learning. I'm at the start of a journey on some new stuff called Kriya Yoga as well. So I'm learning about that. So I'm fascinated by all of these mind things because I think they are the bedrock on which you build your success. I think of it as a pyramid, really. And this side is skills and this side is knowledge. And the base, I call it personal development training. But within personal development training is attitude, goal setting, so-called time management, flexibility, control, and all these other things that are the base from which we jump to success. I think it was Clowitz who said that the secret of success was a secure base. He meant that in military terms, but I think it applies to life as well.
Yes.
So that's the way I look at it.
And like you, I'm a fellow meditator, a TM meditator, and I do dip in and out, but I know when I'm doing it, it just gives me that clear, quiet mind, and then some, lovely ideas can pop in. I'd love to go back on the where you were talking about choice and choosing, because so many business owners, they believe they're in a business where they don't really choose what's happening. Things just happen to them and they're reacting furiously. Then they're stepping back in fear when an opportunity arises for them. So what could you say to those business owners who feel that they're not in control, they don't have a choice, and that the world is just smacking them around the face? And they really, just fighting every day, trying to get through the day. And they're just not enjoying their business and they're not happy.
Yeah. Firstly, I would say I empathise because I've been there, done that. I've been in business now for 45 years. It'll be 46 years shortly. So I do emphasise because this high D part of me, I'm very task orientated. So
could you just explain that high D part of you? Because for people who don't know about this.
Surely, yeah. So there's a process of self-examination, if you like, with a series of questions, a typical personality profiling tool called DISC, which the DISC, which is dominant, influence, security, compliance. The letters are used for other things as well. But it splits, and I could draw it for you. This would make life very, very simple to explain it. It'd be very easy, and I think useful for people. So there's a circle like that, DISC. It's a bit like that if I hold it up to the camera, DISC. And I'm not a practitioner on this, but I've got a degree of understanding with it. And on this side, the D and C people are very task orientated. And on the INS side, the people are very people orientated. So this high D, and there's a mark of how D you are, I'm very high D, means you're a very dominant sort of person, very strong character, want your own way, control, etc. And the high I is why you see me in pink shirts, because I'm very happy being on stage and chatting and being, quite jovial. This high S here is the high need for security. Well, I don't have a very high S. I'm very comfortable in my own skin and being in control of my own results. And I'm not necessarily high C, which is compliant, which means you stick to the rules. I don't tend to stick to rules. I tend to make my own rules. So that's really what I'm talking about when it comes to that. So that's a DISC. And there's lots of other ones. There's a great thing called Colby score, Kolbe, where my Colby score is 5393. So I'm a typical entrepreneur with a fact-find bias that I have to find things out to do it quickly. Anyway, going back to it, I empathize with anybody who is in business feeling that they've lost control of it. And I think part of that loss of control, Nina, is that we're feeling that we're in a competitive environment. I interviewed somebody, and I don't believe there is competition, by the way. I think there are other companies, but no, you don't work there. Let me give you an example. When I first sold my business and decided what to do with myself afterwards, because the company I sold out to was a main board public company in London, traded on the London Stock Exchange. Main board, not AIM or over the counter, absolute main board. And they paid me £4.2 million. It was £1 million in cash and 3.2 in shares. The shares in this company fell out of the sky. They were £2.42 and they dropped to 16p and cost me £3 million.
Wow.
I lost £3 million. At the same time that the property market was doing this, property prices were falling, I had a bit of property around, the whole thing was a complete disaster. So I really went back to nigh on zero and had to start again, having sold my business and thinking I was retired. Right? So I sat down one day and I said to myself, Peter, what do you love to do? Right? And I did do it in that disassociated way by referring to myself as Peter, rather than what do I love to do, which I also answered as well. Peter, what do you love to do? Because I like, when I'm playing with questions in my mind, I like to change the language patterns at times, just to refer to myself as I, or sometimes refer to myself as you, because I get different answers by being associated when I say I and disassociated when I say you. So what do I love to do? And I love to stand and speak and share my ideas. So that's why I've spent the rest of my life doing that and helping other people to do that and being paid appropriately for doing it. But I realized when I interviewed somebody, and I think this is such an insight, I wish I'd learned this at the start of my business, that there is no competition. There are other companies. I would go and see a sales director to talk about training his sales team. And he would say to me, Peter, I can get sales training down the road at a quarter of the price that you charge. And I would say, yes, you can, but not my training, because I don't work there. Because there was no competition. There was only me. So sometimes people don't value what they bring to the party, which is the most important part of it. I share with people my knowledge, my experience, my expertise, and my take on it. And it's that take, which is the bit where you get paid for, that's the differentiator between anybody else in the marketplace. And this guy I interviewed in America called Roy H. Williams, the Wizard of Ads, he brought to my mind and explained to me the difference between the relational client and the transactional customer. And this would be such an insight for people if they've never heard this, Nina. You see, the way it works, Roy explained to me, and I've proven it since for myself, is that the transactional customer is their own expert. And all they want is the best price. Whereas the relational client looks to you to be the expert, and price is one factor, not the factor. Now, in my life, I've always dealt with the relational client. And therefore, I can relax knowing they perceive me to be the expert. It's relational, therefore it's likely to be long-term. And therefore, I can relax in the marketplace and I don't give a fig what other people are doing. It doesn't mean I don't watch and learn, but they can go on their road. I'm very comfortable traveling my road, knowing that money is the silent applause for a job well done. And that's all it ever is. It's the silent applause for a job well done and value delivered to others. And if we focus ourselves on the money only, then we stress ourselves out. Whereas if we focus on delivering awesome value to people to the point where they want to pay us, not have to pay us, then the whole game changes. You have flexibility, you have calmness, you're relaxed, and you're able to be yourself. Here's my golden rule of business. Don't deal with tossers. Right? That's what I say to everybody. Don't deal with tossers because, and you know exactly who I mean, the transactional customer you don't want. He's trying to beat you down on price so you can't deliver the value that he or she wants. Whereas I don't deal in that way. It's not where I'm at. I never use the word discount. There is no discount in my business. Discount is a transactional term, not a relational term. A different package, maybe. So I think, to answer your question in my typical long-winded way, is to say, be aware in your business if you're looking for relational clients and act accordingly. There are plenty out there who want what you have, who are prepared to treat you as the expert, who will say lovely things about you, who will pay their bills gladly and on time, and they will refer their friends and contacts to you if you would only ask for it. There is no pressure. You just relax. You know, I heard a guy, when I used to play golf years ago. I don't anymore. I decided to give up. I was good, but I decided I'd done what I needed to do. And I saw a guy who was a long distance driving champion. He could drive the ball 400 yards. And the interviewer said to him, I don't know his name, we'll call him John. He said, John, as a mark out of 10, how tightly do you hold the golf club to hit the ball that far? Right? And John replied, 3 out of 10. 0 being the club would fall out of his hands, and 10 being he's doing this to it, right? And he said, only 3. He said, yes, the more relaxed I am, the further I hit it. The more relaxed I am, the better I am in business for both myself and my clients.
Yes, and I completely concur. And this is the work that I do with my clients to help them to have a quieter mind so they can make some great decisions. So when you do have overwhelm in your mind and you feel, you know, there's lots of stuff going on, you know, lots of things to pay attention to, what's the best way that you have a quiet mind so you have that clarity where you can really focus on the big question and then come up with the answer for that? So if you're in the middle of a busy working day, you can't just take 20 minutes out to meditate, you can't journal. What's the, you know, a nice quick way that, or any methods or techniques you have to bring calm to your system?
Absolutely. I learned this on an audio program. The first ever audio program I listened to was called Lead the Field by Nightingale. And I subsequently revoiced it for Nightingale Conant for the UK market. So I was very proud to do that, as you realise. Excuse me. Excuse me. And on there, Earl Nightingale talked about a man who was a consultant called Ivy Lee and talked about the double prioritised do list. It's the fact that if you start every day with a do list, this is my version of it, and today I use an app called Todoist. So it's on my Mac, it's on my iPad, it's on my phone, it's there, it's linked and synced across everything that I do. So I have the Todoist app, the Todoist. And the way I work is this. I prioritize at the start of the day what I'm going to do. Just the top 3. When I've done number 1, I don't do number 2 till I've reprioritized the list. I have another look just to make sure it's the highest item. And then before I do number 3 and make it number 1, I just check again. So I'm always checking my to-do list to make sure I'm focusing my mind and my activity and my results on the highest priority item. So how do you know the priority? You know the priority because you've got goals. If you haven't got goals, you cannot possibly know the priority. And my view of it is this: goals are like jigsaw puzzles. If you haven't got a jigsaw of your own, you must be a piece in somebody else's. Right? Now, I don't want a piece because of my control and flexibility. I don't want to be a piece in somebody else's jigsaw. I want my own jigsaw. So I have my jigsaw. I know what the picture looks like when it's done in the 3 areas of my life, which is fitness, finance, and family. So I know exactly what those goals are, and my daily activities drive me towards those goals. Why? Because I'm high D, because I'm task orientated, because that's who I am. That's what I do. So Earl Nightingale said, a successful life is made of successful years, which is made of successful days and weeks and months. And a successful day is made by having a double prioritized do list. Because if you have one thing to do, it's the only thing you do all day and you don't do anything else, it doesn't matter. You're always working on the highest priority item. The devil take the hindmost. It just doesn't matter. You don't want to be going home thinking, I didn't do this, I didn't do this, I didn't do this. You want to go stop the day saying, I did do this. This is what I was happy about. This is what I chose. This is what I learned, and let go. It's as simple and as easy. No, wrong. It's as simple as that, but it's darn difficult to do because it takes a lot of discipline to work in that way.
And any tips on someone who's not high task orientated, who maybe procrastinates and, finds it difficult to get going in the morning? Any tips for those people?
Most definitely. I think is to recognize what are your strengths and play to them. So that there's no point trying to, let me explain it this way, if I may, Nina. I came up with this expression years ago, and it'd be easy to think this was a fundamental attribution error, but I don't believe it is. In the sense of, I once said, people will never consistently do who they aren't. And I thought about it in this way. I was trying to work out why some people weren't being successful, and they seemed to have the skills to be successful. And I realized that what they weren't doing was they weren't doing things that didn't match totally with their beliefs, identity, values, self-concept. Now, if you look at the Dilts pyramid, for example, I wrote the Dilts pyramid 20 years before that in a different formula. I'm not taking it away from Dilts. The Dilts pyramid is brilliant because it makes you understand. But I'd actually recognized that for myself 20 years ago and said, hang on a minute, why isn't it people don't do this? It's all based on their identity. And your identity is what drives your beliefs and values. And those beliefs and values then start to indicate your skills and capabilities, which influence what you do, which influences what you have and how you live. But it starts at the identity level. So if somebody's struggling, the thing to do is to recognize their identity and then play to their strengths and get rid of the other stuff that they can't do, won't do, don't have the skills to do. And these days with virtual PAs and etc., getting help has never been easier. I mean, I'm very lucky. As you gather, I'm a relational person from my language that I talk about. And I'm fascinated about clean language and information like that. My PA, Rachel, who you've spoken to, has worked with me for 31 years. My community manager, Beverly, happens to be my sister-in-law. She's worked with me for 34 years. My sales guy, Steve, has worked with me for 35 years. My web guys worked with me for 15 years. We are long-term relational people. And so we're really clear on who does what. So I would say to anybody who is struggling at all to get going, to get things, is to say, work out who you are. And the way you do that is listen to your language. Listen when you say, I am. We hear somebody say, I'll say it and cancel it in my own mind. You hear someone say, I'm always late. Right? Oh, I can't get going in the morning. Well, you say those things, that's what you're going to get. It's as simple as that. What you say will be the way. That's the way it is. So recognize who you are, structure your life so it works for who you are, because then you can give it your best shot and get rid of the other stuff. Don't do it. Don't force yourself into a box that doesn't work for you. That's how you create stress. I'm really clear, this will be a help, I think. I'm really clear of what I do in our business here. It's very simple. I write informational products, so I create templates and the content. I deliver that content either vicariously in the sense of through a camera lens or by standing at my own events, right? And I do sales and marketing, and I don't do anything else. I don't do anything else. I have nothing to do with it because that's not the best use of my time and talent. So if I can concentrate where I believe, because that's important, I have to believe, that that's my time and talent best use, that's what I stick to. Now people say, oh, it's all right for you, you've got people to do it. No, anyone can find people these days because there's virtual assistants online that you can pay £40 a week to will do 40 hours of work for you. I mean, it's just so simple.
Yes, and this is something I discovered recently, to play to my strengths and to delegate all the stuff that isn't me, for example, technology, things like that. And this has really freed up a lot of my time and made me much, much happier in my business. So this is a fantastic tip that you've shared. So what would be your number one tip, a mindset tip for business owners who haven't got to the place they want to be yet in terms of profits, success, happiness?
Sure. Okay. Very often when people are stressed out, it's because the business isn't making the amount of money they believe it should. Right? So that can be a challenge with pricing. Now, this is going to sound a bit glib, but take it from, I don't know all the answers. I've been in business a long time, and I still know I'm still learning. You've got to keep on learning. The day you stop learning is the day you stop earning. That's the way I think of it. But I do find that so many people undercharge for the value they bring to their clients and customers. And therefore, I think the first solution is to make the business profitable. And how do you do that? Number one, don't deal with tossers. That's right. Number two, decide if you're relational or transactional. And if you're relational and you are the expert, walk like the expert, talk like the expert, make sure you've got a book written with your name on it, because that's typical expert status. As Cialdini said, Rob Cialdini, the foremost expert probably about persuasion, and I've interviewed him, by the way, and he said in the authority figure space, there are three factors: title, trappings, and clothing. What title do you have for yourself? What are the trappings around you? You know, your book, your business card, your car, the way, and that your clothing. How do you dress appropriately for that marketplace? You've got to position yourself. If you're going to do that, you've got to ask for the right money. And once you get that right, I find for most business owners, most of the other worries tend to disappear if the cash flow is working. So you've got to get the money rolling through the door, because that's the definition of a business. Are you going to rip somebody off? No. Money's a Santa Claus for a job well done. If you're not getting paid enough, you're not doing a good enough job. Do a better job, get paid more, be prepared to charge more.
Yes, and it's all about believing in yourself as well, isn't it?
Yeah. A friend of mine says most people reach the limit of their belief well before they reach the limit of their talent.
That's a brilliant saying.
Isn't it?
So, Pete, how can our listeners find out more about you and your work?
Fantastic. Three simple ways. They're all websites these days, obviously. I have my main website, which is peterthomson.com. There's no P in the surname, Thomson. So there's the H, but no P. So peterthomson.com. I managed to secure it many years ago. I'm sure there's lots of other Peter Thompsons more famous than me in the world who wish they had it, including the Australian golfer. When I'm running events, and if this is when you see this, if it's a time when I am running events, they're under peterthomson.tv. So that's nice and simple, and it'll be a video of me there being crazy as always, talking about my events, which invariably, if they're one-day events, are extremely inexpensive. If they're 2 days, they're extremely expensive for serious people. And lastly, my online material is these days in a portal called theachieversclub.com. theachieversclub.com, where anyone can go there and they can have full access to all of the material for 7 days for $1. I think I normally keep $1 on my desk somewhere. Oh, there it is. Right. For $1, someone can have access to everything for 7 days and then decide if they would like to carry on. And all the details of pricing, etc. there. But I would urge someone to go have a look for $1. And by the way, if they don't like it, I give them the $1 back. So
fantastic. It's so simple. Brilliant. Thank you. I could talk to you all day, and thank you for your generosity in sharing so much great wisdom and advice for all our listeners. And for everyone who's listening, I hope you've had a fantastic time listening to Peter and you got a lot of value from it. And please do join me again soon. Thank you, Peter. It's been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you, Linda. Thank you.